Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Nice to see you again. Hope you're doing well. Today we're in the fish room, we're looking at the discus tank, because if my channel had an FAQ section, the three most popular questions are: can we see more of your discus tank? Are discus difficult to keep? And have you got any tips on keeping discus? So this video hopefully will answer all of those. So let's start with what we're talking about. This is my 12-foot long DIY discus tank. It's a community tank with lots of different fish in here, but it's centered around the discus because discus are my favorite fish. I love discus. It's what's properly got me into the hobby. I've always loved them, always will. I think they're fantastic and often misrepresented in the hobby. So I built this tank. It's a 12-foot long tank. You don't need a 12-foot long tank if you want to keep discus. We'll talk about it more later. But I'm going to use this as an example just to show you how everything's getting on, how the plants are filling out, how the fish are doing more than anything else. The main thing I want to give you is the rules for keeping discus. There are no rules. There are guidelines, and that is something I'm very passionate about, clearing up the distinction between rules and guidelines. I'll probably call this video the rules for successful discus keeping, but they are guidelines. I'm doing things in this tank nobody would recommend you do. I'm keeping discus with fish people wouldn't recommend you keep discus with. I'm keeping them at temperatures people might not want you to keep them at. There are guidelines that will give you the best chance for success, but there are always outliers to those guidelines. Let's start with how you describe the discus. The discus, the king of the freshwater aquarium, they're cichlids. They're found naturally in the Amazon River basin area, South America. So they're South American cichlids. That might mean something to you and not be compatible with the kind of perceived view of the discus. They're often seen as very graceful, lazy, gentle, peaceful, floating about in air, lovely serene fish, but they're South American cichlids at heart. They can be a bit fighty, a bit aggressive every now and again, especially during breeding, things like that. They can have that about them. They're called discus because they are round. They're disc shaped. They have a disc-like body. They should be round. They shouldn't be triangular. They should look like a discus. And no other way to say it than that. The kind of adult size is 5-6 inches is fairly common, but they can grow much bigger, 8-9 inches. They have a wide variety of colours, which is one of the reasons they're so popular, is the availability of all these different colours and patterns. Really, really bright, back down to all the kind of wild types. There's two main varieties where we will hear about wild caught and domestic discus. Wild caught, just as it says on the tin, are fish that lived in a river and are caught and taken and sold in the trade. Domestic are bred, tank bred fish, line bred over many generations to get these fantastic colours and shapes. The domestic discus is generally what you'll see in most people's tanks. The wilds are a little bit more specialist. Almost all the guides will talk about them being peaceful fish, that they are social fish. That means they do well in groups. They kind of swim all over the tank. They're not top, bottom, mid water fish. They take over everything. And that they're compatible with a number of fish as long as you match the water parameters and the other compatibility factors like aggressiveness and all that kind of stuff. Some of those things I have a little bit of an issue, which we will come on to. So touted as the rules for keeping discus, you'll hear people say you need to keep them at 30 degrees Celsius, that's about 86 Fahrenheit I think. You need to keep them at 7, pH of 7, very soft water, and have the cleanest water possible. They need to be kept in a 55-gallon tank or a 200-litre tank. They need to be filtered up the wazoo 10 times an hour. You need to be turning the water over. Keep them in bare bottom tanks. Don't have bright lights. All these kind of things are they're done as fact when they're not presented as fact, and this is where I start to have the issues. Temperature, 30 degrees is fine. That's not, you won't get anybody saying that it's wrong, but it doesn't need to be. I keep mine at 28, for instance. I know other people who keep them a little bit warmer than 30. In the wild, they are not kept at one temperature. You need to be able to allow for a swing. A range is fine. So I keep mine at 28, 27 is probably fine. Lower than that, you might be looking at a couple of problems, but you know, each to their own. pH, some people keep them at 6, some people keep them at 7, some people keep them at 8. They are very different pHs, and the fact that people are having success at all of them says a lot. And they will adapt to water quite well. Certainly domestic discus, but even wild to a degree. And yes, moderately soft water is probably good. Hard water will have more challenges for you, and you really want as few challenges as possible. In these sort of areas is where I think some of the kind of anecdotal science and the handed down over generations information comes into it. Many years ago, in the 70s, yes, discus were a more finicky fish. They were a lot more delicate because they were being brought in from the wild. And that reputation has just stuck. But I would argue that today's discus that you can get from any good reputable breeder or importer, they're as hardy as any other fish. The fact that the people harp on so much about them needing pristine water, I mean, shouldn't we be striving for that anyway? I would argue that all fish deserve pristine water, but hey, there you go. So I feel like there's a little bit of an elitist attitude to discus keepers where they think they're a little bit of a cut above everyone else. And yes, discus do elicit that kind of reaction sometimes, but maybe it's because they're on the more expensive side of things that people feel a little bit like that, and I can understand it, but I really wish we would stop proliferating some of these. They're not rules. They should be guidelines at best. So for instance, keeping them at 30 degrees, yeah, you'll be fine. You're not going to go wrong with that, but that doesn't mean you can't keep them at 28. I'll just reel off a few others for you now. They often say feed what the fish will eat in 5 minutes and then get rid of any leftover food. Every single discus I've kept over the many years I've been keeping discus has been a grazing feeder. If I did that, they would not get enough food. It's just not true. If anything, my number one rule would be feed more than you think. And yes, don't leave food in there to rot and foul the water, but give it an hour, that's fine. If there's food left over at the end of the day, yes, by all means get it out. And like any fish, train yourself to know what your fish need. Other fish will outcompete your discus for food, so that's why you have to choose your tank mates very carefully. It's nonsense. I take you back to the South American cichlid comment. If they are hungry, they will eat. They will get stuck in just as much as any other fish to make sure that they get the food that they need. This comes from, again, a hangover from when you first introduced discus, and you'll see this with your new discus. When you first introduce them, they can seem a bit shy, they can hide away. And certainly in the olden days when people brought these fish in, that's what they did. So you didn't want any other fish in there taking all the food as it came in, because they were a lot more boisterous, and the discus would not eat, and not eating leads to sickness, and sickness leads to a bad reputation. But once you've got your fish in and settled, they'll eat just as much as any other fish, and they'll fight for it too. The minimum tank size thing, 180 litres for 6 discus, that's probably good. But there are lots of variables that nobody ever actually explores. That might be fine. 180 litres is fine for 6 discus, as long as you don't have any other fish or decorations in the tank. 180 litres might be good for 10 or 12 discus if you don't have anything in there and you have 10 FX6 filters on it. A lot of people want to keep these as display pieces, as show tanks. It's in your living room looking fabulous, that you're really proud of. So you want fish, plants, rocks, wood, decorations, whatever it might be. Use your own common sense. If it looks crowded in there, it's probably too many. They do like to be kept in groups, they are social fish, but is 6 the right number? Or is it 5? Or is it 7? 6 is just a suggestion. It's the one that people, I myself, use all the time. But if you've got 5, that's probably not terrible, and 7's not terrible either. They also don't mind being kept in pairs every now and again. If you have a compatible pair, they'll live happily just as well as a group. So food, as well as the compatibility with other fish, you'll find factions of people who are pro beef heart. So beef heart's a very common food that discus keepers will feed. Then you'll get the anti-beef heart guys. So you'll get the you must only feed frozen or dried foods. And then you'll get the no, you must only feed live foods. You want to feed nutritious foods. So a balanced diet is where you want to go. These arguments that, oh, you can't feed beef heart because where do you find
cow hearts in the Amazon, and then you see them feeding Sarah pellets or something like that. You're going, well, where do you find them in the Amazon either? Nutritious. Feed something that's a good, nutritious, balanced diet. That's what we care about, not what it actually is. And again, feed more than you think, because they do eat more than most people think. The biggest misconception is probably to do with filtration. You'll hear people talking about, oh, in the olden days they used to do 100% water changes a day to be able to keep Discus, and some people still do multiple humongous water changes every week with Discus. Does it hurt? No, they probably love it. That's one way to achieve very clean water. There's nothing wrong with that. But do you need to do it? I would argue that you don't. Now, mine are kept in a 12-foot tank with lots of water and automatic water changes and all that kind of thing, but I tell you, I'm nowhere near changing 100% of the water in a week. Clean water is what you want to go for. You want to make sure that you are changing water and filtering water effectively. There's no number you need to hit, in my experience. All these things I'm saying in my experience. So take what I say with a pinch of salt just as much as I'm advising you to take what anyone else would say with a pinch of salt. These are guidelines, not rules. Rules are made to be broken. So yes, I'll finish this public service announcement on behalf of all Discus fish everywhere to say yes, they do demand pristine water conditions. I would argue all fish should demand pristine water conditions. They are the coolest fish going and do deserve extra care, but I would also say all fish deserve extra care. If you're going to keep a pet in a glass box, you should be prepared to look after it. There is a very elitist attitude even today with the Discus world, but I think they are a fish that can be kept by anyone. Just make sure you're meeting these minimum requirements of clean water, good food, a good environment that you would do for any fish. You'll do well with Discus.
So I hope you found some of that useful / interesting / not a waste of time. I'm interested to hear your thoughts though, so if you have any thoughts, get them down in the comments or come and join me on a Friday night at 9 PM UK time. We do a live stream most Fridays. Let me know what you think. Have you got any misconceptions, any tips that you've come across, anything that annoys you that sometimes people just trot out as if it's the golden hard and fast rule that just isn't the case? Because I think there's a lot of leeway. There's a lot of Discus must have X, which I don't think is necessarily the case, and there's a lot of you must do this in a Discus tank, which applies to every fish. Good husbandry should not be the reserve of an expensive fish. You should always be taking care of your fish tanks. You should always be making sure your water's nice and clean and good quality. I don't get why people just reserve that for Discus or AN other expensive fish. But like I say, hope you enjoyed some of this, found any of it entertaining / useful / inspiring. Are you going to go and build a 13-foot tank? Yeah, let me know in the comments. If not, I'll see you in the next one, if I don't see you on Friday at 9 PM. Bye!